Hold on, I just realized I don't know what I'm waiting for. It's just me today. I don't know what I started waiting for. I think I was waiting for the song to be over, but then I realized it was probably over a while ago. Hey guys. Hey guys. Who's ready for a chill solo stream? Where I can make myself the main focus of the stream today. Because everyone on the Jazzman team hates me and wants me dead. Just kidding. That is a lie. For legal reasons, this is a joke. It is a solo Manda stream. Solo stream today. And guess what we're doing? We're gonna yap way too much about saxophones because, you know, I have the floor today. Nobody else was able to make it. Therefore, I'm just so cool and awesome. I get to yap for hours. Or about an hour, see how I'm feeling. Specifically, gonna be yapping about saxophones. And maybe possibly, if people are interested, teaching about saxophone anatomy. And as a saxophone player, kind of showing you guys how all that works. So I got up some references. I should probably start with, hello, if you're new to the stream, my name's Amanda. I am the community manager / local Twitch streamer at Jazzman. These are pretty close to each other. This is actually more space than you would think it is. It's right there. Anyways, so I am resident streamer, storyboarder, saxophonist, animator at 251 Productions. Basically taking over the whole studio, totally. Gonna overthrow Alex, start a coup, all that good stuff. Yeah. This is way thinner. I'm kind of going into a deep dive of saxophone anatomy. Because typically I know how to draw a saxophone. It's pretty simple. You got the neck, you got the body, and it kind of goes like that. And then you got the actual saxophone. Fairly simple, right? But we're gonna deep dive study saxophone. Because I play it. And if I play it, that means clearly it's the best instrument ever. And also Jasper plays it in the show. So therefore, it's pretty cool. It has a divot here that I always forget about. I wonder if that's in every saxophone thing or not. It looks like it is. Which is interesting. So it probably goes out a little more. But it hits about midway through the thing. And that's not here. So we're gonna divot here, because the divot's here. Divot there. And then go out and do that. And there we go. But yeah, so if you are not aware, because we talk a great game about the characters and stuff of Jazzman. But to give a little more insight about the music of Jazzman. Specifically the Jazz Cats, because they are a very integral role in the show. Jasper, our main jazz cat, our main groovy guy, plays the saxophone. Specifically a saxophone named Sweet Lorraine. And Sweet Lorraine has an engraving inside the bell. If this is the bell. Where all this bit goes inside to the saxophone. Her name is, it's engraved, Sweet Lorraine. And that's me. That's me right there. I get to play Sweet Lorraine. So if you hear any saxophoning in the episode, it's most likely me. If it sounds good, it's me. But yeah, or at least I hope. If it sounds bad, it might also be me. Who knows? Who knows? Depends on your reference on that. But yeah, I wonder, where is everyone today? Everyone just kind of disappeared, leaving me out for abandoned and cold, all by myself. Okay, so for some of the keys, because this is the part where it gets a little confusing. Oh, I didn't really draw them out with keys. I'm kind of disconnecting the saxophone, by the way, into its 3 different segments. Because when putting a saxophone in a case, it does not look like this or this. This is not how you put a saxophone away. The saxophone can actually be taken apart in bits. We have this part, and this part. that all gets taken away or taken off. So you can find a headless saxophone in the wild. It just looks like this. If it don't got a neck, it just hasn't been put on. And they just kind of like screw in. Right there, super easy. Has a cork to connect it. So there's like a little cork right here. Actually, hold on. Is the cork? No, there's no cork here actually. But there's a little thing, a little tight thing here that I think is attached to the neck actually. I'm a fake saxophone player. Yeah, I believe it's attached to the neck. And there's also, I'm gonna get rid of this line because it's covering up exactly what I want to point out for how you put a saxophone together. Is there's a little screw right here. This screw, which I believe is right here. This is also partly off of memory on what bit's attached to what, but I'm pretty sure. I don't have my saxophone on right now. There's a little screw that goes right here. This screw, once you insert the neck, it pops right in here. You tighten this screw, because this screw is going to tighten this to latch onto that. And then your neck shouldn't swivel, because your neck can swivel. You can literally put together a saxophone if you really wanted to, like this. It won't work well because there's a button right here that connects to right here. You can see it right here. It's called the octave key. Well, it doesn't connect to right there, but it does. Hold on. So there's a little lever here that this little button right here makes move in and out. And while it moves in and out, there's a little pressure plate, sort of. It wouldn't be, in Minecraft terms, pressure plate right here. And that goes, okay, we're going out or we're going in. Therefore, this little guy should or should not be touching this. Things like that. So, if you have it on the wrong way, these little bits aren't gonna align. They're just not. So therefore, we put the saxophone on correctly. Can still play, I think. Just not very well. Oh, you keep giving me the wrong thing. There we go. But yeah, still fun fact. Okay. So we're going for a we're doing a study on a saxophone today. A little study. Anyways. So now you know about the screw, now you know about, this is the octave key, by the way. What the octave key does is it covers up an itty bitty thing right here. Literally what this looks like. If I was kind of looking at it on an angle, like here's the top of my neck. Here's the top of my neck, right? There's a little guy right here. And it is a little like 3D, right? It's like a little pad. There's an itty bitty hole right there. So what this job is to do is have another little pad attached to this big long piece of metal to cover up that itty bitty hole. And that changes the sound of your notes drastically. So when you're playing like a normal like G or something, pressing that button will make it an octave higher. Or not pressing the button, I think taking it off. Because typically it's on. It typically rests right on top. But by pressing the octave key, that makes it go up, and that makes the entire sound of the saxophone go up about 8 notes, which is an octave. Fun fact, 8 notes away from G is just G, but an octave higher. This is why they're not going to let me solo stream, is I'm just going to bore you guys with how saxophones work. Actually, I'm going to keep that drawing there. I want to else is there about saxophones? You know, the octave key, you know how this little screw goes. Ooh, the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece is probably the most complicated thing on the saxophone to put together. Because, like I was pointing out, we have this whole section of the saxophone, the body and the neck. That's 2 parts. Those are the only 2 things for this whole chunk to put together, right? However, the mouthpiece has 3 pieces that you need to put it together. So 3 pieces, 2 pieces, right? So itty bitty space with a lot of things, and you have to make sure, like, this is pretty easy. If you mess this up, you're okay. It's not the end of the world. It's hard to mess up. This, however, it is extremely easy to mess up. So you have your mouthpiece, and a mouthpiece tends to look roughly this shape, right? Pop quiz, which side? Well, okay, actually, I'll say the pop quiz. Are 3 pieces: the mouthpiece, the ligature, which is a fun word you probably might not have heard of if you're not a musician, specifically a wind instrument. The ligature. Some ligatures can look different. You can have like little versions that are like they're kind of fun. I like these. They're kind of like a little wrap / like band, and they have like a bit of a flexy material. Or I'm gonna go under it. Or you can have a version that this is going to be purely by memory, by the way. That looks something like this. Something like this. But it's metal, right? It looks something like that. This one has one. This is what it looks like. Same with this one, little metal one. That's what it looks like. Alright, that's your ligature. And then you have your reed. Which has a specific little bend at the top. And a little thing here. It has like words and stuff down here. And it's super thin. This bit, specifically the top, is like paper thin. Basically gives this like this is what it really looks like on its side, on its upper side, if you rotate it, right? So these are 3 pieces: mouthpiece, ligature, and reed, right? What side of the mouthpiece, pop quiz, to the, I don't know if anyone's lurking or not, but pop quiz, what side does the mouthpiece go on of the reed? I just realized, did it make an announcement for the stream? No, it did. Okay, just checking. I would hate to be yapping and actually not be streaming. That'd kind of suck. Anyways, I'm basically talking to the YouTube people right now. YouTube VOD watchers. If you said this side, you're correct. If you said this side, you were very wrong. Why would you say that? Just kidding. The mouthpiece at this vertical angle is going to fit right here, basically. Right against that. And it all points to have the littlest amount of space right here. So if I were to draw this mouthpiece, I keep pointing at a bunch of random things. Oh, and I ruined my redrawing. Whoa. Where'd the sensitivity for my eraser go? Rough. Oh. I was on the wrong eraser. Okay. So if I were to turn this on its side, like kind of front facing, and I'm kind of doing this by memory, right? Because I've seen a lot of these in my day. And there's a big hole right here. And just an itty bitty sliver over here, right? This is what this side of the mouthpiece looks like without the reed on it, right? So there's a big old hole here that goes straight through because there's a big old hole down here. Right. And then there's typically like words and stuff down here, and there's also like, well, the cork's actually on the neck, so I'm not going to draw the cork in there. Yeah, so when you put the reed on it, you want it to specifically, you want the reed to be almost exactly at the same level as this little sliver on the top, right? And I think most people say go a sliver over it too, right? So your reed should be like directly right. I want to make it like look a little different. So like directly right there. And that's going to come down. And it's going to attach right here. And I do these lines to make it look like really paper thin, because it is. It's paper thin. And there's like words down here. Now you might be asking yourself, if you are, how does this stick to, like, how does the reed stay on the mouthpiece? Well, in some scenarios, if your reed is wet enough, it'll just stick there, like suction cup to it sometimes. That's not the correct way though. Because typically, this reed here, or this mouthpiece and reed, are facing this way, which the mouthpiece is attached to the rest of the thing, to the rest of the saxophone typically. The reed is not. So the reed is going to go wah, it's going to go wow, onto the ground. Unless we put on the ligature. Now, funny thing about the ligature is we have two different types here, right? And I'm going to try my best to draw what these types like typically look like and everything. Where the little screws on here, if I were to like draw this at a different angle, we have one screw and we have two screws, like where it clamps on, and we have this and we have this, right? If I were to draw those out, you always want to make sure your ligature is on right, because it is at a slight angle, right? There's a wrong way to put it on. Is a trick, no matter what ligature you have, whether it's like one of these or one of these, is these little buttons here are always going to be facing the right side. You're right. Right. So if I put on my favorite ligature, or one of my favorites right there, like kind of like a shirt, you're going to insert it like that, down. And it's going to snugly fit right here. And you're going to make sure that your little things are facing there, the right side. Same thing here. And sometimes they'll be down here. No matter what, you just want to make sure they're facing the right side. Just notice this is the right side. If you're right here, even though I'm pointing left, this is the right side facing the saxophone. Sometimes they're on top, sometimes they're down here. Sometimes the screws are up here, sometimes screws are here, sometimes screws are here, sometimes screws are whatever. As long as there's a little thing and there's a little screw, that screw is going to be facing to the right. Fun fact. Also, this is totally going to be a stream for my fellow jazzmanians who might want a little saxophone lesson. But yeah. Okay. That is a bunch about mouthpieces. Very intricate. And you want to make sure too that the reed is like, because it's paper thin, and how it's going to make a noise on the mouthpiece is because there's an itty bitty gap right here. And when you have your mouth on this, all slobbering it up and stuff, bleh, this is my mouth slobbering up my reed. When you have your mouth on that and you blow into it, a smiling air, and you blow into it, this reed, because it is so paper thin, is going to vibrate a bunch. And this is how you're actually making noise in the saxophone, is it's going to vibrate a bunch and kind of go through this, and because of the itty bitty sliver that you left in here, that is going to make a sound that, this is our new little mouthpiece area. Because of, oh, I put it upside down. That's gonna make a sound that's first going to be a really, like, this is a squiggly line, is going to be a really tight vibration. But as it goes through the saxophone, that vibration is going to get bigger and bigger until it comes out the end and makes the lovely noise that you know. And especially with all of the keys and holes that like release air and stuff, that vibration is going to become wider and bigger to make the sweet sound of the saxophone. Is basically, in symbolish terms, how that goes. Because when vibration is really, really thin, that means the note is really, really high. However, as when it gets way, like, the oscillations of the sound get bigger, that means it's going to be lower. So that's why there are different kinds of saxophones of different sizes, and with those different sizes, they sound different because of how high or low they are in terms of sound. I think that makes sense. You know, so like there's like a little soprano saxophone. I've played all of these and they were so fun. Soprano is one of my favorites besides alto. Alto has been my main girly pop since 6th grade. Since 7th grade, technically. They didn't let me play alto in 6th grade because they were mean to me. Just kidding. I keep drawing it the wrong way. There we go. And okay, so this is soprano sax. You may be going, Amanda, what the heck? That looks like a clarinet. It's not. It's a soprano sax. It looks like a clarinet though. Because it's so tiny and it's clarinet sized and it's clarinet shaped, obviously it's clarinet. No, it's not. It's a saxophone. Because it's metal and has all the same keys and all the same whatever, you know. Next one up is the alto. Which looks roughly like this. We have a picture of an alto right here. This is not a picture of an alto, and this is not a picture of an alto. This is a picture of an alto. And it looks like that. And then we have a tenor. Which is going to be bigger. Besides being bigger for any of my VOD watchers or people lurking in the shadows, what is different about the tenor than the alto? Soprano, alto, tenor. If you said this neck, that is different. Or that is correct. It is about the main difference, besides it just being bigger, to how you can separate the two. So you can now notice this is a tenor. This is also a tenor because it goes wee, wee, and the alto just goes womp womp, you know. Then, the next one. These are just the main 4, by the way. The possibility of saxophones and how many saxophones there are is like endless. I'm sure there's an exact number of saxophones invented that people could say, but like, oh my gosh, there are tons of saxophones. Like, this is not the highest saxophone you can get. The soprano is not the highest saxophone you can get. Like, you can get sopranino. I don't have the name memorized of what comes before then, but I'm sure there's one before then that's even like smaller. Sopranino is like that's like playing out a little trumpet thing. Anyways, and then but anyways, after tenor, because there are main 4 ones that people actively discuss. Now this one I'm gonna struggle to have memorized. Then we had a big old Barry. I miss playing Barry. I played Barry for about, I want to say 2 to 3 years. I miss my Barry. I was renting it, so I can't just go and play it again. You know, guys, if there's a reason that you guys should donate to Jazzman so that the show can be made, is so that if you donate to Jazzman, I get paid more money and I can purchase a Barry saxophone. With enough time, that is, of course. That if you ever were looking for a reason to donate to Jazzman, that's what it should be. Pretty sure they're still doing like Ko-Fi and stuff like that. Anyways, this is a big old Barry, roughly how it's shaped. It's big. All of these, like, you wear a neck strap when you play saxophone. There's actually like a little loop here that goes for wearing a neck strap. The neck straps are pretty simple. They just go around your neck. And they all have this, except for Barry. Because Barry's so huge, you have to wear a whole harness. You could wear a neck strap if you wanted to break your neck, but Barry has a whole harness that, like, this is the harness, right? Goes around. Yeah. Whole ass harness. Just for playing this behemoth. It's cool. And it's not even the biggest you can get. You got Barry sax, but then you get like bass sax, which is like even bigger, and like, yeah, at that point it's just on the floor. When you gotta stand up and play because it's on the floor. It's really cool, actually. Let me get rid of that little guy. There are my saxophones of the saxophone family. I didn't draw them with their mouthpieces because I didn't want to. Yeah, what else about there is a saxophone? Because yeah, a little neck strap. I wonder if this has a thing pointing at it. This doesn't have a thing pointing at it. Well, typically around right here. This is like the thumb rest. And I believe it's under the thumb rest is where you get the... Because you got one hand here, and another hand here. Where your thumb rest here. Yeah, it's totally under the thumb rest. This is where you attach your, the thing that I have been saying this whole time, neck strap. This is where you attach the neck strap. Anyway, something I kind of wanted to do, just for funsies, is to do a little render study on a saxophone. Because, like, I, with colored pencil, drew a saxophone. And, like, a fully shaded, fully all that good stuff. Years ago in high school. When I was taking AP Art, I think. Maybe it was before AP Art. When I was just taking general art, I guess. because they were having us learn different mediums and stuff. And I was doing color pencil for the first time. Now, might be a personal take, but drawing instruments with color pencil is the coolest thing. Fat Rat, there you are! Amanda, I'm so sorry, I'm here. Took you long enough. I'm solo streaming today. Hi Fat Rat, welcome in. I'm solo streaming. And I'm yapping about saxophones. I'm talking about saxophone anatomy and all that. But yeah, I drew a saxophone like with color pencil, and oh my god, if you ever want to get into color pencils, drawing instruments in hyper realistic detail is where it's at. Cause like, look at all this stuff. Look at all this like shading and like fun colors and like, oh my god, like a saxophone just glistens. It's so pretty. I'm at a con with tons of cool bisexual people and they keep calling me gay for liking femboys. Is that a bad thing? I don't think that's a bad thing. Slay for being around a bunch of cool bisexual people at a con. I hope the con is very fun. Let's see. What else was I? Oh yeah, I wanted to kind of render one, because they're very fun to render. But I've never rendered a saxophone digitally before. Oh, whoopsie. So I think that would be an interesting take. Let me get rid of all my little guides and little, like, things over it. No, because all the cool bisexual people are kind of hot girls. Oh, damn. Damn. Lay on the Fat Rat charm. You got this. Okay. I'm gonna start sketching out a saxophone. We're gonna try to make it as accurate as possible. And I guess I'll use red. My ass is getting rage baited. Aww. Don't let them rage bait you. Adapt, overcome. You got this. Okay, because I want to use that as a reference. Let's see here. I don't want to make a one-to-one that exactly. We'll just use this reference. We got the neck. But now I should say these terms, and if any VOD watchers have been watching the whole stream, should be able to follow along with each of these parts of the saxophone. I even have this up here, by the way, so if I say any words that you guys don't know, you can refer to this. Bell, body, neck, mouthpiece, ligature, reed, all that good stuff. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize I could just point out the 3 parts right there before I went through every little intricate detail about it. Neck screw, yeah. Oh my god, the lyre screw. This is the most useless thing on a saxophone because it barely even works. This thing barely even ever works. Oh my god. At least on my saxophone. Goddamn. Useful if it does work and you're like, you need it for the rare occasion you're marching and need to put in a lyre. But oh my god. Most useless thing. What kind of, question for Fat Rat, what kind of con are you going to? You don't have to say the name of the con, don't dox yourself or anything, but what's the vibe? What's the function? Is it anime, games, comics? What's the vibe? And then one thing to note too with the body, this is very integral for saxophones to work, is it needs to have the opening up shape. It's super elongated and you can barely notice it, but it opens up the more it goes, because that's what's going to make the sound that I was explaining earlier get wider. And that's the thing with these instruments too, is because if your sound is very, very itty-bitty, like oscillating here, it's only going to get so big when it gets to the bell. However, here it can get a little bigger, and here it can get even bigger. And this fella, look at the path this sound has to go in. it makes some big sound waves. It's Isekai Con? Oh, that's fun. It'd be funny if someone went pretending that they got isekai'd to that con. So they were like from a fantasy place and now they're at this Comic-Con. But this Isekai Con, that'd be really funny. Okay. So specifically here, we kind of did it. So we go in our little straight, almost parallel path here. Cut off. This is gonna divot. This is gonna go out a little bit. In, up, and out, but it doesn't point. Is it gay if I'm a man and like femboys? That's up to you to decide, I think. That is up to the individual. And then as we talked about earlier, there's a little divot there and the bell goes up until about here. That's where that bell's going. Oh, that looks nice. That's a good looking saxophone. Let's go! I know a good looking sax when I see it. But what if it was up to you? Okay, let's see. It depends on how I liked femboys. If I was feeling this might get TMI for a minute, but if I was feeling sexually attracted to femboys, I may go, okay, maybe I'm a little gay, right? But if I just liked the idea of them, or maybe romantically attracted, I could see myself being like, okay, I might be a little gay for being romantically attracted too. But if I just appreciate them and appreciate their aesthetic and everything, but wasn't feeling either of the previous two options, I probably wouldn't consider it. But that would be my own personal thought process through that. It's the difference of, do I want to date one or do I want to be one? You know? But it is also up to the individual, I think. Drawing a saxophone. Talking about femboys. Is jazz music coming through very well, by the way? I just like femboys and women. Okay. Take that as you will, then. It is also nothing that you need to rush on deciding how you feel about it. I'm not an expert though by any means, so I can give you my best advice, but note that I am not the all-knowing. I should clarify that. This is not as thick as I'm drawing it. It's way thinner. And a little closer together. Because, this isn't as close as you think. Because this is not attached to this. This is the body. This is not. But the hot bisexual people keep calling me gay and yell F slur. That's not nice. That is being homophobic, but interesting case if they are also bisexual. Are they meaning it in a harmful way or a haha silly fun way? Oh, what did term did? Oh, yeah, we deny There we go. A bot tried to come into the chat. Obviously, I'm only able to give so much insight if I am not actively there in the situation. It's a joking way. Is it hurting your feelings? If there's anything I know about cool bisexual people who are actually cool, is they should love talking about their feelings. And if it is hurting your feelings, and you want to get on their good side, saying, hey, that maybe hurts my feelings. You can say it in whatever fat rat way you want to say it, though. But if there is anything I know about cool bisexual people, that would be it. From the ones that I've met. This looks a little off. No, but I like the people talking to the way they keep doing. What? Sorry, I just didn't understand that sentence in that order. That looks a little better. I'll go back a little bit. Much better. No, don't quote me on that. I don't know what you meant by that. I didn't understand the sentence. I like the people talking the way they keep doing. So you are chill with them. Oh. I'll allow it. Rude. I love you too. Okay. Oh, one thing I didn't... So I mentioned how, like, these two attach, but I'd never mentioned how the mouthpiece attaches to the neck. And so interesting thing about the neck is there is a big old cork. And when I say cork, you're probably thinking like a wine cork or something. But you're not that far off. It just has a big hole. It's like a wine cork, but it has a big old hole in the middle and it's attached to this big old metal thing, right? And it is like a cork board. It is cork texture. There's a big old cork attached to the neck specifically. And with that cork, since it is a bit malleable, that is how we attach the mouthpiece. Because the mouthpiece has a big old hole down here, right for where the cork goes. So what you do is when you have your mouthpiece, you gotta twist it onto the cork. And fun fact about specifically like saxophones and little saxophone culture for you. I keep doing it upside down. Little saxophone culture for you guys. It's not really culture, it's just fun thing you wouldn't have to think about is that the cork of the saxophone is like sometimes like super like I would say dried out maybe, and makes it really hard to twist the mouthpiece onto it. So what do? How do we fix that? Well, there's something that you can buy at the store called cork grease. And it looks just like a little thing of chapstick. It looks just like a little thing of chapstick. Then you twist, has a little lid, looks just like it. Only difference, it says cork grease on it. And you rub that thing all over the cork. And by doing that, oopsie, I meant to use this. By doing that, you are able to get the mouthpiece onto the cork with ease. And it's super awesome and slay and epic. Lay epic awesome sauce. But yeah. And that's how you kind of put each of the pieces on. Oops. Some people like to put their mouthpiece on before they put on like the ligature and the reed and all that. Some people like to assemble the mouthpiece before they put the mouthpiece on the rest of the thing. I'm pretty sure I assemble the mouthpiece first. Yes, I do, because I do a thing called the pop test to make sure that my reed is on. I assemble the mouthpiece and everything, and then I put my palm against the bottom of the mouthpiece. And then I suck as hard as I can on how do I make there we go. Suck as hard as I can on the mouthpiece. And when I take my head off and take my hand off, right? No, not take my hand off. Don't take my hand off. Keep my hand on. Sorry, I had to do it in my head, or I had to like actively do the motion with my hand to remember. Keep my hand on. These two are going to be stuck together, and if you wait a second or two, you'll hear a pop because it'll unpop from it, and that's how you know your reed is on correctly. Anyways, fun fact, that's called a pop test. Anyways, I got my thing on, I got my ligature, I got my little reed. And the ligature is what keeps it on, and you gotta tighten your ligature. Also, fun fact with saxophones, if you've ever, I'm sure everyone has had a point in their life where they have heard an instrument that sounds like absolute dog water. Because that instrument is what you might have heard as out of tune. Now, there are different ways to tune an instrument. And it's not like how you would expect a piano to be tuned, where you have to get in, like, there's an actual profession called a piano tuner, and they come into your house and they tune up your grand piano or whatever you have, and they actively like have to like take it apart and do all this stuff. It's not like that. It's actually much easier on wind and brass instruments. And for the saxophone, it is how you tune is adjusting the amount of mouthpiece there is on this cork. Because, I mean, you see pictures with the cork showing and everything. And I mean, it's a little in there, and it's a little in there. You can see the cork showing. But if you really wanted, you can shove that mouthpiece all the way to, like, the end of the cork. Might not be the best idea. Your saxophone might sound like shit. But, yeah. And basically adjusting how much you have mouthpiece to cork ratio will adjust your in-tuneness. So if I remember, because it's been a second, and you know I was just teaching this, but if I got it wrong, I might be bleh. But if you push it in, that's going to make your saxophone sharper. If you pull it out, that's going to make it more flat. And what that means is sharp just means if this is my pitch, if it was sharp, it would sound like, which would sound out of tune. If it were flat, and my pitch is, and I went flat, it'd be, if you can hear a difference in that. And then having a bunch of different instruments, all at different pitches or out of tuneness, all trying to play together is just gonna sound like, Wah! It sounds awful. So you try to match with the rest of your team, or saxophone, or section, or whatever, or band, to all be in tune together, and adjust your corks or your mouthpieces, or however you need to tune your instrument. Some people do like, some instruments have like valves and stuff they need to like pull in or push out, I don't know, pull out, push in. Yeah. And also when you're trying to like tune with other people, there's a little saying that we have in the saxophone world and or other instrument worlds, typically other instruments as well, because it's around the same thing. of if you don't know if you're sharp or flat, when in doubt, pull out. Because we pull out the mouthpiece. So when in doubt, you're most likely sharp. So you want to get flatter. Anyways, that's just a fun saying that we have. Anyways. Different, I keep forgetting about this part. I should probably make sure I have that. So I'm gonna actually redraw this mouthpiece. Because in theory, I would like to study. Anyways, any questions on saxophones or general other jazz man questions? It's literally because I'm the only one here today. I get to yap about whatever I want. So if I want to yap about saxophones, I'm going to yap about saxophones. This is the fun part. I'll show a little bit of the underside. I will go like this a little bit. Now it just looks like he's crooked. Never mind, not gonna do that. It doesn't do that, it stays flat. The reason this has to stay so flat is so that the reed can line up with it. Because you want the reed as flat against the mouthpiece as possible. It was always so funny when I was learning saxophone when I was younger. Because my family would always do those like family dinners and whatnot, where like parents ask like, oh, what'd you learn today at school, kiddo? And then you have to scramble to actually remember the entire day to the best of your ability, which I was always the worst at. I go, I don't know. But when I started learning saxophone and everything, I could talk more about what I learned on saxophone. And there is a very funnily named technique for when you are like articulating different notes called tonguing. A lot of phrases used for playing an instrument sound so oddly sexual sometimes. So like, let's say you're like me when I was in middle school, go up to my parents and I go, oh yeah, I learned tonguing today. Oh yeah, I learned how to finger my saxophone today. These are actual phrases. These are actual phrases that you learn as like a beginning music student. Is you learn how to finger, you learn how to tongue, you learn how to do all this stuff. It sounds so odd. And yeah. And like, whenever I like, cause I would never like think of it like that when I was learning. I never did. But then you would like be talking about it to like an outsider and they'd go, what the fuck? You go, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's a technique, I swear. I don't love how this looks. So I tried doing it at an angle. No, I gotta start that over. I don't like it at all. I love that I can actually get to like just listen to the jazz music. It's nice. This is kind of what I do on my personal streams, where I'll just like hang out, yap about whatever. I make a point to be a little chill guy. All right, I gotta go. I love you. Bye. Love you too. See you later, Farrah. The parasocialness is gonna come to bite me in the ass one day. Okay, there we go. You know, other people did say that they were gonna join later on. But you know, it's okay. It's my first Jazzman solo stream. I gotta see how I do. Oh my god, I just realized I can also talk about the other projects that I work on. Devious. Delightfully devilish. See more. I was quoting that the other day, but I was specifically quoting the line, "Ye gods, my roast is ruined," because I was doing a lot of cooking yesterday, and my roommate didn't understand why I said that, and I was like, wait a minute. I feel like I've shown everybody I've ever talked to steamed hams. Don't tell me I missed someone. For the most part, no. She did know. I love quoting steamed hams. It's not something I quote very regularly. Oh dang, this is a great place where you can see, this is the neck strap. The neck strap holder, where you get a little clippy. It's like a little, like, it's just a little clippy. And you get the neck strap. And it goes around like blah. I have seen so many neck straps in my day. I know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. There are so many different types. Like, there's a science down to these. I once had a neck strap where, like, it was literally, like, to have a good neck strap, you want one that has, like, a little bit of bend and a little bit of stretch to it. So that, like, and a little bit of padding. That's, like, the ideal neck strap. You want a little bit of bend, a little bit of stretch, and a little bit of padding. Well, bend is, you're gonna find that in all of them, because it's always a, flexible material. But yeah, because it like converges down here, and like boom, 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 right? And so this is where your neck's gonna be for like hours at a day if you're like really playing saxophone. This is where your neck is gonna be right here, and then your head's gonna be right here, right? You kind of, and then you have the weight of a whole saxophone, depending on what saxophone too you're playing, a big ass saxophone, and just the weight of a whole saxophone there, right? And you don't want to hold that with your hands all day. That's rough. It's like it's just big enough where like it's not heavy. A saxophone isn't really heavy. An alto, at least, isn't really heavy. But when you're holding it out for like hours at a time. Yeah, I like to see who can hold a 5-pound dumbbell for like 2 hours without like dropping or like setting it down. You know, saxophone's probably more than 5 pounds, but either way, like you know what I mean. Hopefully, hold up a 5-pound dumbbell or a 10-pound dumbbell. I don't even know if they're called dumbbells, the little ones, the hand dumbbells. And you tell me. you tell me how long you can hold that up for, because like when you're playing saxophone, you can't just let it rest on the like. I work with kids, and I teach them saxophone and stuff, and this is the most common thing I see is we have a chair, right? You got a chair. No arms or anything. This is typically what band chairs look like. Typically band chairs, they all have the same chairs, have the little like curve in the back that my hair, because I have long hair, would get caught in, and I'd be like, ah! I'd be like, ah, why would you do that? Why? Ah, that was so mean to me. My hair just got caught. Oh no. Rah. That'd be me. Anyways, uncomfortable chairs, depending on the day. Anyways, this is one of the biggest things I see from kids when they are learning saxophones. If only I wasn't going to be out during the stream. Aw, that's okay. I'm yapping about saxophones. Anyways, most common thing I see is kid leaning back, legs crossed or something. I wouldn't say this is the most common thing I see, but this is what they always try to get away with. They got their saxophone. And they just doing this. And it's like on the chair. This is not how you play saxophone. This is not the correct posture for playing saxophone. When you're like, even when you're sitting in a chair. You would think it would be easier you would think it would, like, people would need the neck strap for when they're standing up. No, you need it for when you're sitting down, too. Because, like I said, go and sit down and hold a 10-pound dumbbell for 2 hours without setting it down. You know? And, like, you can even hold it like this. This is the dumbbell. You can hold it like this. I don't mind. But just do that without it touching the ground. Hello! Hello, Esteban. I think, right? I think. I always forget because I'm bad with usernames to names. I'm talking about saxophones. Anyways, so yeah, this is like the most common thing I see with like beginner saxophonists. Because they think like, oh yeah, I don't need to have good posture to play my instrument. No! You do. And you have both feet on the ground. Oh my god, the amount of people I see with like either no feet on the ground or only 1 foot on the ground is barely on the ground. Anyways, this is how you want to. This is why you need a neck strap. Because like if you just had your saxophone like sitting on like your chair the entire time, like you wouldn't really need a neck strap. But you're not supposed to do that. What are you supposed to do? I gotta move my little saxophone diagram. Don't talk to me, my son's son, or my son's son ever again. I see those often for the saxophone family. This is what you want to do. You want to sit in a chair. You do not want your back on the chair. No, you want to sit at the front of the chair. Right? You got your head here, your neck. I'm the worst at drawing people in their chairs. Except for this guy, apparently. This guy's chilling. Your butt on the chair. Feet down. And then the saxophone specifically. Notice how with this posture, which this is good posture, there's not really any room to have your saxophone on the chair unless you're like really like reaching. You want your saxophone out, because you don't want your saxophone going down like this. You want your neck out. Saxophone down. Relatively, this is what good saxophone posture looks like. Notice how the saxophone ain't resting on anything. Notice how you're holding this semi-heavy instrument for hours on end, while also blowing air out of your lungs. So, having a neck strap is kind of really useful. And specifically having a good neck strap. Is it possible to play Is it possible to play saxophone without a neck strap? Yes, it is. Technically, you can just hold it like this. You can. It's not that heavy. But I was saying right before you came in, I challenge you to hold, like, it's not, like, saxophone is not that heavy, but you're holding it for a while. And to have good posture with a saxophone, it needs to not be like resting on anything. So I challenge you to go hold like a 10-pound dumbbell for like 2 hours without setting it down, you know? Does it affect the sound? Maybe it needs a stand to sit in. It does not, or it does affect the sound. Yes, your posture specifically affects the sound. Having a neck strap does not affect the sound. What do you mean, like maybe it needs a stand to sit in? Oh, I see. It would be a lot to hold for a whole concert. Exactly. Like, I have a friend who plays clarinet, and like clarinets, compared to a saxophone, itty bitty. Like, you don't really see clarinets holding, like, you don't really see clarinets struggling with their clarinets, right? However, my friend uses a neck strap because they can, because they don't really want to hold their clarinet for hours on end. So they use a neck strap because it makes things easier. The bigger the saxophone, though, the more you most likely need a neck strap. Like, I played soprano, which basically looks around the same size of a clarinet. It's just made of brass. And I would wear a neck strap. I was mentioning earlier, berries. This is about a roughly accurate size representation. Actually, I'm going to make the tenor a little longer. This is a roughly size accurate representation of what the saxophones look like. And I'm going to make the soprano a little smaller. By my memory, right? Berries are a little different. Berries, you can't fucking hold that shit with just your neck. You gotta have a whole ass harness for this berry. And that harness looks a little something like, goes over your shoulder. So it straps around your chest, goes over your shoulder, goes over your shoulder. And you got a whole ass harness on that thing. Because, yeah, berries are extremely hard. Those things are heavy. Huge. Berries, so we have our nice example of what a good posture saxophonist looks like, right? You got a berry. That's about how big it is, roughly. Maybe a little smaller. That's huge. Is your friend Squidward? Yes, my friend is Squidward. Like, you could put the bottom of it in a stand or something so it's standing upright, but you don't have to hold it. They actually do that with bass clarinets. And a bass clarinet looks a lot like a saxophone. A bass clarinet, if I'm using this as a size estimate for somebody sitting down, this is what a bass clarinet looks like. Roughly. Very extremely roughly. Right? So, what bass clarinets have is this little peg right here that helps it stand on the ground. Because bass clarinets don't use neck straps. A stand for a saxophone, because they're not as big, would have to, like, look like that. So they don't really make them. But yeah, that looks pretty huge. Yeah, bass clarinets or not bass clarinets. Berries are big. At least when I was drawing this, I was drawing it with like a child size in mind, because I'm currently teaching children and they all think that they can play saxophone like this. Like, you can play a saxophone like this. In this example, this kid is not wearing a neck strap. In this example, this kid is wearing a neck strap. They all try to get away with doing this. It's not good for your lung capacity, basically. This is going to affect the sound coming out of your saxophone because it is affecting how your lungs are able to blow air out of your mouth. That's like a battle clarinet. They want to play like chill dudes. They do. They always want to play like chill guys. They don't want to, because, I mean, kids don't want to sit up at the front of their seat. When I was first learning saxophone, I always had really good posture growing up, surprisingly. It wasn't until this Canon event when I was in middle school in a math class where I was sitting up in class and the person behind me said, "Hey, Amanda, can you squat down? I can't see." That's when my posture took a turn for the worse. Before that, though, I had really good posture growing up. When I was playing saxophone, you can't have your back against, hi Barbara, you can't have your back against the chair, but I would be far enough back so that my saxophone could like sit on the front, and the person teaching me at the time was like, "No, Can't have that. You're gonna get yelled at for that. I'm like, oh, okay. Because you want to relatively have your saxophone at a nice, like, outward, not like you don't want your saxophone to be down here. It's, yeah, better that way. Makes sense. Being all folded down like that can't be good for the lung capacity. Exactly. I like challenging my kids when I'm teaching them to like see how long they can play for, and like they go, oh, my head hurts, and I go like, they're like, I gotta, like, my head feels light, and I'm like, yeah, you gotta build up that lung capacity. Exactly. It's always fun. I did not notice bass clarinets didn't use a neck strap. Is it just because they're so long? Yeah, basically, and they basically almost hit the floor. So the little peg that they use is adjustable based off of the height of the person. Because with saxophones, you're wearing, I'm going to use this one, well, I'm going to get rid of these. I'm not going to get rid of these guys. I'm just going to shrink them down. I went over the anatomy of a saxophone earlier, so if you're interested in that, I went like really deep into it. This is a solo stream, so I just get to yap about saxophones the whole time. So when you're playing a saxophone, and this is me, and this is my neck, and this is my torso, and this is me playing with good posture, I think. What you want is when your saxophone is dangling down, it's got your neck strap. This is my neck strap. And right here is the little thing that the little neck strap attaches to. It is always on this end of the saxophone, which is also right here, not the side that the keys are on. And due to weight distribution, your saxophone is going to rest like this when you are not playing. So it is very important when you're playing with a neck strap, though, that there's a way to tighten it. So on each one, there are like these little things that you can tighten or loosen your neck strap. What is that bit for? Which bit? Gotta level up that breathing stat. No, for real, because I tell them it's a muscle. Like, when I'm teaching lung capacity, I'm gonna be bouncing all over the place, by the way. When I'm teaching lung capacity to my students, I tell them it's a muscle. Like, you don't think your lungs are a muscle, you think they're just for breathing. They're a muscle that you can train and build up. Like, and I always like to explain, if I were to go and do like 100 push-ups right now, I'd probably pass out. I'm not good at push-ups. I don't practice push-ups. However, I do practice lung capacity, and I practice like blowing air out of my mouth for long periods at a time. And so therefore I can do it much longer than they can because they haven't had that time to build up the lung capacity. LOL, I mean, now I understand what that bit is for. Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyways, that is where the neck strap attaches to. So when you have your hands on your saxophone and you bring it up to play, because this is typically what like a rest position will look like. You go and bring it up to play. Your neck strap is going to come out a little bit more because you're pushing the saxophone away from your body. You don't want it to be against your body. When I was in marching band, they always said it should be about a fist size away from your stomach. Is at least what they said when I was in marching band. Because they really care about that stuff. If, let's say, your neck strap is like super duper loose, you're like a level 20 bard. Thank you. Thank you, I practiced. But let's say your neck strap is like super, like not tightened at all, and you go to bring your saxophone up to your face. Look what happens. Like, it's not up to my face. What the heck? Because, yeah, you don't want to do this. Let's just bring that a little closer to here, but my neck strap is still really loose. So now I'm just gonna bring the saxophone closer. Now your neck strap isn't doing anything. your neck strap isn't doing anything, and now you're just holding your saxophone for hours on end, and you're gonna get really tired. So you want to tighten your neck strap tight enough to where your saxophone perfectly comes up to your mouth. Bo-bo-bo, bo-bo-bo-bo. This is my saxophone perfectly up to my mouth. So that your neck strap actually does something, you know. You want to make sure it's actually, yeah. But you deprive the neck strap of its life purpose. Exactly. What you don't want to do also, though, is I got to draw a whole new guy for this. And start with their body. Okay. So I got the body. And I got my neck. And I have my neck stripe. My neck strap tighten as it can possibly be. And typically neck straps have a barrier to tightening it. That will stop it from going like too far, you know, like you don't want to choke yourself. But now it's like super tight. So now I have my saxophone. It's super close to my body. Super duper close because I tightened it as far as it can go. That neck here, this is your neck. The neck. That neck here is not going to shorten for you. Now I got to put my head all the way back here just so it doesn't stab me in the face. You know, I'm going to turn that stabilization down because that is bothering me. There we go. Right? So that's why you got to find the perfect, like, it's like, oh no, now it's too close. Right? Now I got to like move my whole body back. Right? You don't want to do that. So you got to have your neck strap at a decent length to where it perfectly just like when you move your saxophone up, it just lands right in your mouth. In a comfortable place. Let's see, what else about the saxophone have I not talked about yet? Any questions from the class? This is actually totally going to help me when teaching my middle schoolers, actually. I'm a new teacher, so I'm still learning about what I can do to help teach and make it make sense for them. Yeah, I might use depriving the neck strap of its purpose as a as a phrase I might use. Yeah, earlier in the stream I talked about how to put a saxophone together. So if you're interested in that, you can rewatch the VOD. I talked about what this does, the octave key. I talked about the screws, the cork. I'm paying attention in case I need to animate it, honestly. No, that's absolutely half the reason why I'm I'm talking about it is if any animators wanted to like know all the intricate details about saxophones. I know the intricate details. I highly recommend going back in the VOD. One of the biggest things too I notice when drawing saxophones is I've mentioned this, but they don't want to fix it with the neck strap. I mentioned how it goes this way, right? This is what it looks like when you're holding it because this is how weight distribution works. This is the heaviest part, this is the lightest part, and it's also on the back of the saxophone. However, everyone's drawing it like this. This is how everyone's drawing it. And I mean, you can if you attach it down here and you flip the saxophone over and you very meticulously make sure that it's like that. But it's not going to rest like that. What posture do you use when playing while standing up? That's a good question. I'll make sure to save that VOD once it's out on YouTube. Let's go. Playing standing up. It's pretty similar to when you're playing sitting down. But it does change some things with how your air structure goes. If you're working on a more meticulous sense, like when you're a beginner, I mean, you don't really feel much of a difference. But when you're more advanced, you can feel a bit of a difference. Like I was in high school, my senior year, and I'd like to say that might have been when I peaked. Not actually, but I did a really good job my senior year of high school, or junior year roughly. And I was doing a competition where the song I was playing was a super duper high note, which, by the way, fun fact, your high notes on the saxophone are not restricted by the keys that you have, but by your skill level. and how well you can play high notes. Your low notes are pretty restricted. You can't really play lower than what you have the keys for. But for high notes, oh my god, you can have full, like, yeah, you can play really, really high notes that are not even on the keys of a saxophone. I can't, because I hate doing that and I suck at it. But you know, it is possible. My saxophone professor showed me, and I was like, oh goddamn, I need to lock in. But anyways, in high school, I had this song where I had a really high note in it. And when I was practicing, I noticed when I was sitting down, it was really hard to play. I couldn't quite get that high note. However, it was easier when I was standing up. Which I wish I could explain the intricate details as to why, but note that it is probably easier to play the saxophone in general if you're standing than if you're sitting. But anyways, going towards falsetto notes, no idea the technical term. I think falsetto is more of a vocal thing, I think, because I don't really hear that term used enough for me to know the exact meaning on wind instruments. I would call them overtones, because it's technically what they are. When you're playing a note, notice how this is called the G key, right? And I played this note, and this note to be G, right? Because that's how you play a G. However, if I use what's called an overtone and I don't press anything else, I can make this note sound like about like 6 other notes. I don't know about 6, at least 3 other notes. With overtones. And how you do that is fully within the mouth. Entirely. One of the biggest ones, the easiest note to do overtones on is the lowest note on the saxophone. It's easier to do overtones on the lowest note because it's easiest to fuck up playing the lowest note, because your embouchure has to change so much to play that low note. However, if you don't change your embouchure, you're not going to play that low note, but you will play something else. That sounds pretty wild. Yeah, I would get my saxophone and like demonstrate this, but I live in an apartment complex with a neighbor and my roommate's home, so I'm not gonna. But you can, you can play almost every note on the saxophone, without pressing the correct keys. There's a lot of alternate fingerings you can use. You will play yourself. Yeah. Anyways, I was being asked about like posture. So anyways, you want a slight like puffed out chest, straight posture. You don't want your neck to be like this. You don't want your neck to be like this. Just want relatively straight. I have a lot of videos, by the way, of myself playing that I have in the Jazzman Drive for references, for if anyone is animating Jasper. And then you tend to want your feet at a comfortable position. I need to draw this guy a little smaller. Generally in a comfy position, but still relatively straight. And you want to hold your saxophone out. You don't want your saxophone to like I said, a fist away from your stomach. Relatively perpendicular, horizontal, vertical, something like that. Parallel with your body, roughly. Sometimes it'll come in a little more, actually. It comes in a little bit more than that. It comes in more like this. But still separated from your body. Parallel, that one, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. I don't want you in my room. You don't want your arms. You don't want little chicken arms that are like pressing into your body. You want your arms to be out at a comfortable rate. You don't want your arms to be like this. You want your arms to be comfy. Not like this. Not like this, but like this. No chicken wing arms. That's actually what we would call them, yeah. And yeah. And then you would just play. And depending on your stage presence and if you're like performing or not or something, I always played with a little pep in my step of I fucking dance when I play the saxophone. If I'm in my chair, I'm swaying. If I'm standing up, I'm moving around. I dance when I play. And honestly, I think that'll make it fun for when I do recordings of myself for when Jasper's playing. Because I've always been told I have a really good stage presence. But there's a bunch of people who I know who will play like whole concertos or whole solos just looking like this. However, when you're playing, like, you can have fun. You can like bend out with it. You can go like, oh, I'm playing and it's so fun and I'm having a great time and yeehaw. That sounds really cool. Yeah, like you can have fun when you're playing. As long as you're not ruining, as long as you're not doing this. As long as you're not doing this, basically, you're gonna be fine. Like a real jazz man. Yeah, actually, this pose is kind of a really good pose. I'm kind of proud of that pose. Yeah, as long as you're not doing that, you're fine. Full lung capacity, no spine injuring postures in a dream. Yeah, basically. Yeah. No, I have some people who I would play with who just stand like this like the entire time. And I'm like, come on, you gotta move something. They don't even like bap their toe or something. Yeah, I go the whole mile with like moving around. That's me personally though. That would theoretically be good posture. In theory. Let's see, what other questions are there? Things I can talk about the saxophone. There are a few main keys. When drawing a saxophone, you probably get really intimidated when looking at a reference because you see all of this stuff and you're like, oh, that's a key, 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 that's a key. Oh my god, I have to press. How do your fingers press all of these keys? Oh my god, these are so many keys to press. Well, good thing you're not pressing all those keys. Those aren't the keys that you press. The only ones that you're really pressing are this one, this one, this one. Yep, look terrifying to draw. Yeah, this one, and this one. And sometimes these ones. I doubt Jazzman's ever going to have you do the ones in the back or the palm keys over here. Maybe sometimes. This is actually a way better thing to look at it. So, we have this key, and this key. We have this key, and this key. We call these the pearls. These pearls are where your fingers are going to be at all times. When playing a saxophone and not pressing a key, your arm comes around here. You're going to keep your fingers touching these though. You always want to have, even when you're not playing them, or even when you're not pressing them down, you always want your fingers to be on them. Because what you don't want to do when you're playing. When I recorded saxophone for references for you guys, I did a bad thing, but for the animator's sake of taking my fingers very far off the keys so that you guys could tell which ones I was pressing. Because it is very difficult to understand which ones you're pressing. if I don't do that. So if I'm like teaching kids, or if I'm specifically being like, okay, to play this note, you're going to press down this finger, I will exaggerate and do this. This is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do this. At all times. When playing. It's just for clarity. Exactly. And you're always supposed to have your pinkies right here and right here. But jazz men don't have pinkies. So I don't know how you guys are going to get around that one. Feel free to, whenever Jasper plays one of these keys or one of these keys, good luck. But yeah, because let me get rid of the drawing I have under this. Because those are, yeah, you got your main fingers here, here, and here. Your pinky is going to be right here, because this is a pinky key. No pinky swearing on Jazzman, exactly. And this is also a pinky key. So here, here, and here. Those are where your hands are. This is my wonderful hand drawing. Your thumb, by the way, there's a thumb rest around here. Can't really see it very well on this one. I think that's the thumb rest. And then, can't really see it on these. There's a thumb rest here too. This thumb rest is a little hook where your thumb's going to be. And then the other thumb rest is just a little pad where your thumb's going to be. And right above that, the octave key, so that this thumb can slide up onto it. The octave key is what this is, because there's a little thing here, and that little thing has a little thing down here, and that's going to connect to the little key right there. Oh, or this one has the octave key button all the way down here. There we go. And then, yeah, if that's where the octave key button, thumb rest right there, which is aligning right where these are, so that your hand can nicely wrap around it. Neat, like the Z trigger in the N64. Yeah, something like that. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, your thumb will be right under this. And that thumb's not moving. That thumb's got nothing to do. What this thumb is doing, I always kind of explain like this. When holding a saxophone, your hands have two purposes if you're just holding the saxophone. Right? This hand and this hand